So everybody, welcome to tonight's Southern Fried DNN user group meeting. I am your stand-in host, Clint Patterson. Ryan Moore could not be here as he has a Valentine's Day he's got to make up for. He's been slammed from DNN Summit or something like that. So anyway, unfortunately, we're stuck with him. But we would like to welcome you to the live meeting and to anybody who's watching the replay. We kind of got this meeting together here at the last minute. I told David and the guys, I was like, hey, let's do a DNN Summit recap roundtable and just see, what everybody's perspectives were. So everybody's still playing catch up from the conference, but we figured we'd have a little discussion here around DNN Summit and how everybody liked it. So we do want to recognize our sponsors, which, David, is there a specific sponsor we need to recognize this month, or is it just all of our sponsors in general?
Let's just say all of our sponsors in general, and especially Managed for managing our website, or hosting our website.
That's right. Managed.com hosts our Southern Fried DNN website, where you can go and see all previous meetings, because I did post those religiously. Yep, I'm going to pull it up. Yep. So, well, that was actually a blog Ryan posted there about the lightsabers. And then there you see, previous meetings. So this meeting will be on there sometime tomorrow. Yep, and the video too. So Manage hosts our site, and I'd like to give them a shout out. So they've been longtime community supporters. Also on the meetup, David, where's that button where it says like chip in if you would like to throw contributions? So for example, we as a user group have to pay a fee to use Meetup, and there's a button on here somewhere where you can essentially help us keep our meetings going.
Well, that's an interesting question, Clint, because under this new UI that they've got, I do not see that button.
I'm wondering if it may not be visible for you because you are an organizer, or not.
Oh, that might be the case. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, you might could pull it up in a different browser and find it. I know it's on there somewhere because I have previously contributed like 50 cents or something. Right? So,
I'll try to do that here.
Anyway, point being, if you like our meetings and you want to help contribute, feel free to use the chip in button. And I think on our website, did you see it anywhere there?
I still do not see it, actually. Huh, very interesting.
All right, well, we will locate it and find it somewhere. It's going to drive you crazy now. You want to find it.
It is, man. I'm going to keep searching, and I'll come back and let you know if I find it.
All right. So that's thanks for the sponsors. I believe Mandeep provided us with the skin or the theme for our site. So thanks to Mandeep for that. As far as community buzz and announcements, we have, well, I guess before we get into the community buzz and announcements, while we're looking at our meetup page, David, do you want to share any of the info? So Ryan shared info with us as to what's upcoming with our group, as in who the speakers are for the next couple months. I mean, we may have a hole in one place or so.
Yep.
But David, do you have that? You want to share that?
Yeah, actually, we're starting to get information a little bit more in advance now. So you may have noticed this meetup got announced right at the last minute. We were planning on not doing one this month, just to give everybody a chance to settle down from DNN Summit. But we decided it would be a good time to just have a nice roundtable discussion on recap, of the event and all that went on there. For the upcoming months, in March, we are going to be excited to have Smith Consulting on here, and I think Kelly is going to join us there to share a little bit about Razor Cart, their new e-commerce release. And in April, we'll have Andrew Heffling come back and join us. You may have remembered him from a few months ago where he presented some stuff on continuous delivery and Azure, kind of deployment cycle stuff. He's going to come back and he's going to be sharing something with us that's quite exciting. He has put together a proof of concept for supporting a new module type in DNN that could very well help pave the way for our path to .NET Core and give people a softer migration path for modules. So the module will be able to support Razor Pages or a Razor Pages module type, not to be confused with Razor syntax or that, but actually Razor Pages built on .NET Core. In May, we're planning to have Site Improve come and present some things on for ADA Awareness Month. They have an ADA compatibility tool that they'll be sharing with us and showing us how that works. And then in June, we're hoping to have Canteris come and present their PolyDeploy, which is recently open sourced. That one is tentative right now, but hopefully we can get that solidified here in the next few weeks coming. And we'll get all of these meetups actually posted on meetup.com way in advance this time if everything goes as planned.
Awesome. Sounds like we have our ducks in a row here for a change, which is nice. Appreciate that update, David. So yeah, now community buzz and announcements. Yeah, you got the agenda right there. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the DNN community, right? It's kind of like where do we start here? So first of all, we had DNN Summit last week. Everybody's fresh off of that. We've got post-conference videos that I spent a lot of time creating. So if you saw those. I was up here screenshotting and stealing a lot of social media pictures. But the next conference is DNN Connect, and DNN Connect is at the end of May and beginning of June in Limerick, Ireland. Mr. David Poindexter is going, I believe. I know he's got a session that you could go and vote for if you'd like to hear his session. On DNN Connect's website. So I just want to make sure everybody knows about the European event. We also have the ecosystem advisory groups, and they are very active, especially the okay, so Pete is asking a question. Clint, did you attend the summit virtually? Yes, I did. I did, and I was there in spirit indeed. So the ecosystem advisory groups are ongoing, and the technology developer and awareness groups are pretty active. David and I have been working together with the partner group to come up with a partner program, which we should be rolling out here, relatively soon on the DNN Corp side. But again, we're trying to make the program where it will have, where it will meet everybody's requirements or needs. Like you got a very diverse partner program, different people coming from different how can you say sides of the ecosystem. So updates on a partner program. We had an MVP meeting today, which went well. I got to render the video here for that. Just a lot of activity on the open source side. Oliver Hines looking to make a contribution to the DNN core, which will help performance. And Ash is going to be, so when Oliver was talking in our meeting about wanting to contribute that open source rocket fuel is what he calls it. The question was then, how do we actually make a contribution? Like, what if I built something and I wanted it to be available for everyone? And then that brought up the subject of, like, we need to kind of clearly articulate the steps. And so Ash, in our engineering team or engineering side, he is working on a blog for that. So that will be going out. We also had a DNN Digest go out last Friday.
Hey, Clint, I was going to mention that that what Oliver's looking at contributing is quite exciting because for a long time we've been battling with DNN Insights, the Google PageSpeed Insight scores, and with his contribution rolled in, we should be able to see significant improvements in that, specifically how it handles the web resource, script resource, and dependency handler for DNN. It should be able to allow deferred or async loading of those scripts. So it's pretty exciting. It should make a lot of people happy if we can get that rolled in.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate the added insight. I was about to roll into DNN Digest and talk about MV Quick Theme a little bit, but with the performance gains from Oliver plus MV Quick Theme, you're probably looking at maybe even a higher score for your theme framework, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, so let's see, what else is going on? We got forum posts all the time. We've got Q&A stuff going on all the time. And yeah, MV Quick Theme is a must-have. So there's a lot of community buzz going on. But what we're going to roll into next is our kind of main topic of discussion here. And I don't know that we'll be here for 2 hours like we normally are, but just wanted to kind of open it up. But that is the DNN Summit 2018, just the roundtable recap. And we're going to kind of break that down into a couple different bullet points, which would be just like, what's your overall conference feedback, right? Like, what did you think about the conference itself? What was the perception? And then the keynotes. So we've heard a lot of feedback on keynotes. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the room, so I didn't. I obviously heard the words, but I didn't kind of get the full impact. So I'd be interested to hear from you guys on that. And then the future of DNN, which I think that kind of ties into the open panel maybe that we had at the end of day one, and then next year's location. Because historically, we've had DNN Con, Day of DNN, Dev.NET Nuke, DNN Summit in we had it in Charlotte for 2 years, and it was in West Palm Beach for 2 years. Now it's been in Denver for 2 years. Seems like people just stick with two, or either the hosts of the event, after 2 years, they're like, all right, somebody else needs to step up. So we'll just talk about different locations, possibilities. We hear that there are some community members who are putting together proposals for potential cities, and currently I think what I'm hearing is there may be a Atlanta possibility, there may be maybe like a Wisconsin or Minnesota, like just a cold like Midwestern or something possibility, just depending on what they submit. Look, I'm just a messenger. Also, I'm hearing there's a Bay Area possibility, so that could be kind of interesting. And also,
I heard Austin. Someone mentioned Austin.
I've heard Austin as well. So we'll have to see. But anyways, I want to kind of just step back and open it up. We'll start off with the overall conference bullet points. So I think maybe we should start with Kelly. It was your first DNN conference, right?
It was my first conference, so I had the pleasure of going with Dave Smith at my company, and it was his second, so I wasn't totally flying blind. I had a blast. I had so much fun. I can't wait for next year. I'm not into cold weather, so I know I'm a little California, right? But it was snowing, and I'm like, no, I'm in flip-flops, right? I'm literally in flip-flops, and it's snowing. So I would be open to a warmer climate next year. If I had the capacity, I would really push to be the point person for Southern California, but give me a couple years and I'll get there. I just don't have time this year, but I would love to see. I just can't wait to go back. I met great people. I think I said in an email to Ryan, it was really nice to be able to put handshakes with the mugshots, right? I've seen your guys' pictures for years. So actually getting the opportunity to meet everybody face-to-face. Like I said, I was sitting at the registration table for a significant portion of day two, just really to help out as much as I could, but also, just the extra opportunity to meet people and network, and I had a blast.
Awesome. Well, that is good to hear, especially from somebody who has not previously been to the conference. So it's kind of like you've been in the community, but you just haven't
Right.
been to a conference. So that and I was the same way. The very first conference I went to, in my mind, like some of these people were almost celebrities, right? Because I'm like, holy crap, this is the guy who answers like every forum question, And I remember. There was this one guy, he's an older guy. His name was like Bill. I can't remember his last name, but he was with
Bill Severance.
Say it again.
Severance, I believe was his name, or something like that. Bill Severance.
William Bill. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
So he's been with DNN a long time, and he answered some of my early and first like forum posts. And when you're first coming into the community, it's kind of like nerve-wracking, right? You're like, oh, God, if I ask a question, people will know how much I don't know, right? And so he answered some of my questions, and I mean, like, quickly and with quality info. And I just like, man, if I ever see that guy, I'm just going to, like, shake his hand or something. And sure enough, the very first conference I went to, I was like, kind of quiet, timid, just like trying to mind my own business or whatever. And I saw him walk across the sidewalk or whatever, and I recognized his face from his AV or avatar, right? And so I went up to him. I said, "Man, you probably don't know me, but you have helped me out more than you like realize." And so being able to like make that connection, is pretty good benefit of going to the conferences and stuff like that. And then a lot of times, personalities may come across differently in person than you think online, right? So, for example, go ahead.
I mean, I have a pretty big personality, so hopefully I don't come across more sassy in person. I hope that's not even possible, but I was starstruck when I met Aderson. I'm not going to lie, I met Aderson, and I'm like, oh, and funny story. So the first time I saw Andy Tripa, he was getting into the elevator and I was getting off the elevator. I was so nervous I didn't even talk to him. I had been traveling all day. I hadn't eaten all day and I was hangry, and I'm like, so I didn't even say anything to him. So the next morning he saw me at breakfast and he kind of like gave me a look, and I'm like, okay, good morning. Like, I know I didn't say hi to you yesterday, but I introduced myself, and I hope I made up for it. But I mean, even the first day I saw him, I was like, I'm a little cranky. Now it's probably not a good time to make a first impression.
Yeah. No, it is neat to be able to do that. And as long as you don't throw an N in between the A and D in Anderson's name, you're good.
My name is not Anderson.com.
Yeah.
I made that mistake in 2011. That was 2011. I called him Anderson in an email, and I got my name is not Anderson.com, and ever since then I've been extra careful. But I mean, getting to meet him was cool because he's interviewed Dave a couple times or done hangouts with Dave, so it was cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and never call Ernst Peter Tominga Ernst either. You will also get the get checked. So anyways, well, that's good about the first conference. So, Kelly, from your like perspective, as far as like the overall, just like, because I'm one of the conference organizers, right? So it's like important to me, your perception of, well, it was hard to find a hotel, or it was easy to get registered, or people were rude, or whatever. Like, you've gone to other conferences, so how do we rate or rank in that regard?
So it was the biggest conference that I've been to, which is all well and good, but I didn't have a hard time with anything specifically, so I got off the bus and walked the wrong way. I mean, could happen to anybody, but,
We need to work on our street signs out in the street. That way to DNN Summit.
I mean, it was fine. It was not a big deal. I definitely Ubered back to the airport instead of doing, like, the whole train, bus, walk thing. That just, but I'm trying to think of, something that could have been improved, and I really believe that, it was managed really well. Everything ran clean. The schedule was perfect. The breaks were spaced out well. I mean, I know that there were a couple speakers that didn't show up, so I think maybe checking in with the speakers like the day before, or
Yeah.
Because I ended up, Ryan gave me the task of going into every room after the session started and confirming that the speaker was there, because I think one of the first sessions, they went in the room and there were people sitting waiting to hear a speaker that just didn't show up. So, I mean.
That's probably Ralph Williams.
Potentially. I don't even remember, because I got the job after that happened. So,
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think everything else pretty much went swimmingly.
Nice, gotcha. All right, well, let's hear a little bit from Mark. So, Mark, you are typing in the chat here a little bit, and you're normally kind of a quiet or reserved guy, but
you don't know him.
Well, what was your perspective, Mark, overall on the conference?
And you should be able to unmute yourself there. Let me see if I can unmute you.
I think I'm back.
There you go.
Sorry about that. That was not intentional. So what was the question? Did I like the conference?
Well, so it wasn't a yes/no question, because that would be too easy. It was give us your overall opinion on just the conference in general.
Okay, I have a very positive overall opinion. I think it was well ran. It was organized very well. I also liked seeing everybody, even more so than the sessions that I attended. So there was ample opportunity for getting together. Each night there was something going on, and I really appreciated that. Getting time to talk to people that I see, like you said, the handshake with the mugshot. That was good.
Yep. Speaking of these liquid missile launchers that people have on this thing, what is that? That is Dennis Stroud. That is the torpedo. That's a DNN swag item. Ooh, Kelly. Oh, no, you didn't.
With a propeller on top.
Yeah, we'll just move on here. We'll just act like that didn't happen.
That is the NV quick spinning propelled nuclear warhead.
Yep.
I'll go with that.
All right, so the next item here is Keynote. Now, I'm going to ask the bearded one here. Batman /P/N of Bless or whatever. Did you watch the Keynotes live streamed on Facebook? I think maybe his AirPods are hung in his beard. No? Can you hear me? Can you talk?
Sorry, I usually stay muted. I did not watch any of it online. Unfortunately, I didn't know much of it was available. I thought only a few keynotes were available. And then when I finally found out that more was available, it was all on Facebook. And I was like, well, crud, I'm working, so I'm not going to pull up Facebook on my wife's computer and listen, although I wish I would have.
Well, did you watch them in, like, retrospect, like, afterwards?
Not yet. I didn't know that they were recorded. I thought it was just a live stream, and granted, I should have known that they were recorded, but just haven't had a chance yet.
Okay, so asking for your perspective on the keynotes would probably not a good point. All right, so what about David, Kelly, and Mark? You guys were in the room for the keynotes. What was the perspective? Feel free.
Services provided by freeconferencecall.com. The recording has started. Please announce yourself.
What was that? Not really sure what that is. Let me mute whoever that is.
Might have just dialed in.
Yep, somebody just dialed in. So
welcome, whoever just dialed in.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of go first. I mean, so Andy's keynote was great. In many regards, it was pretty empowering. I mean, it's a different voice than we've heard before, right? Some of the messaging was a little bit the same, but it was definitely an indicator of a new era that we're in here in the DNN community. You know, it's one where it's, you know, in the past we seem to have, you know, as a community said, okay, we really would like to see this, and we just kind of wait and see what DNN Corp's going to do, right? And hopefully they do what we want or need or something like that. But this is kind of a different, seems like a different time where he's flipping it back onto the community and saying, hey, you know, you want something, you know, go get it. There's nothing really holding you back. And that's refreshing, but I think it's also shocking to a lot of people. And it's taking a period of adjustment, I guess, to understand what that means, really. But all in all, I thought it was very positive and empowering. Love to have seen a little bit more on the roadmap and partner program, things like that, but I think that's forthcoming. So it was pretty encouraging. Then Sean's, I'll just hold off and talk about Sean's later.
Yeah, we'll table that to here in a couple minutes. So, Mark, Kelly, what was y'all's reactions or perspectives on Andy's opening keynote?
So, I was impressed. I mean, you know, working with DNN these past 7 years, obviously, when I heard about the acquisition, I did my research on ESW, so I wasn't surprised. I felt like he did give a lot of background on ESW, but I think that was important for maybe people who didn't do their research, because that just shows that he has a full vetted interest in making DNN a more successful platform. And I think that's important to have somebody standing up there saying, I believe in this, somebody that has taken software companies and made them successful before, somebody with a background in tech. And I think it was able, maybe for the people who have doubts or have had doubts that, you know, maybe, you know, don't know a lot about DNN or came to the conference and don't exclusively do DNN websites. I think it does give us hope as a community. You know, we're not a huge community. A lot of times when I tell people I do DNN sites, I get, what's that? You know, and I think that Andy will work toward changing that. And I love the fact that in Andy's vision, Corp is small and the community is big, because I think for any successful platform, it's going to take a community that's enthusiastic about the product and about the platform in order for it to thrive. If the community is kind of on the back burner, it's not, we're not going to go anywhere.
Right. What about you, Mark? I think he's muted. Is he muted?
Oh, thank you. I'd say Andy's keynote was very positive and very encouraging, and it was pleasant to hear him speak that way. I like what he said, that he was hanging on to DNN, didn't have any plans on letting it go anytime soon, and he was going to invest in it with time and money and effort. So that was all positive stuff. I like the way he answers questions decisively and takes action decisively, as well as when he knows the answer that someone posed to him, he spoke with confidence. And at the same time, when he wasn't sure what his answer should be, he said so. You know, he said, well, we're working on that. And that was totally honest. And altogether, that made for a very nice keynote address and a very nice message to the DNN community.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Pete asked David a question in the chat, which would be valuable to have answered out loud, I think. So Pete says, David, when you say Andy's throwing it back to the devs, how do you mean, or what do you mean?
Well, I think he's putting us in a position of being able to do something. I mean, the first step towards this was creation of these ecosystem advisory groups. And, you know, if you're tapped into some of those, which I know you belong to one of them there at least, you'll see the conversations going on, and, you know, especially like in the technology, Slack group. There's quite a bit of conversation about what the future of DNN looks like, and I don't want to steal too much thunder on that one, but it's like I think it's this concept of a community. You know, he says a smaller DNN and a larger community. So a smaller corp is what he means, right? You know, smaller number of employees and leaner, you know, type corp, and then a bigger community. So what he in essence is saying that the community has the ability to drive the platform forward at this point. We're not sitting and waiting to see what DNN Corp, the corporation, is going to do about it. He's looking at it more of a community-driven effort here, and that's different than what we've experienced in the past. Now, it started that way when there wasn't a corp, but you know, it's just really fresh, and hopefully that clarifies what I meant.
I'm really excited to hear what Andrew's doing, because I mean, I think he's actually helping migrate and move the platform forward in some positive directions. Granted, directions I don't fully understand, but I think that's probably riding on what you were saying there.
Yeah, it's a good example. Like in the past, if someone had a kind of an idea like that, it would have, you know, it needs to be put through its paces, obviously, and tested, you know, and that kind of thing. But the freedom is there to go and do. You know, it's more of an open source mentality, and it's just great to see.
Yeah, so it's almost like a return to the roots, so to speak, a little bit, and it's interesting that it is kind of catching people off guard, or that it's taking like an adjustment period, and it's like, wait, you mean I don't have to ask permission anymore? I can just do stuff? And so we, I guess in the past, have been conditioned, you know, in a certain way, and it just takes a little bit of time to kind of mentally decondition or uncondition, whatever.
I'll give a quick example, because this may let it hit a little closer to home.
All right.
So we're in the business roundtable discussion at Summit, which is great. You know, a lot of good dialogue goes on in there, and it's also kind of an area too where people can kind of voice their opinions and things. Well, we're kind of in the middle of all that, and we're in a heated discussion. You know, a healthy, heated discussion about ADA compatibility, you know, compliance, and that kind of thing. Well, Andy walks in the room at that point, right? And, you know, it's more of a roundtable discussion kind of environment. Well, he walks in and is like, oh, yeah, so that's an issue? Okay, well, why is that not fixed? Who's going to own that, and what date are we going to put beside it? You know, and it kind of shocked everyone, you know, but essentially he's saying, oh, that needs to be fixed? Okay, well, who's going to fix it? When's that going to be? You know, when's the goal for that? Right. And that's, I can't remember any time something like that actually happening like that. So it was one of those things where it wasn't, oh yeah, we'll make a note of that. And, you know, we meaning Corp, you know, kind of thing. We'll make a note of that. We'll discuss it and see what can kind of be done about that. No, it's like, okay, well, who needs to own that? Who's the expert in the community on that?
Yeah, and that is kind of a different perspective, right? Interesting stuff. Okay, I wonder if we've got a couple people dialed in. I'm not able to see them. I see numbers. We've got Cheryl Bearden here. Cheryl, welcome back. You show up every now and then, and we're always happy to have you. I don't know, does anybody that dialed in want to say anything about a keynote? Did you listen? Were you there in person?
Hey, this is Matt.
All right, we had two people try. It sounded like a male and a female. Let's start with the female.
Okay, this is Cheryl. Hi, y'all. How are y'all doing?
Hey.
I didn't actually get to go to the conference, but I would like to look at whatever I can see online, so I'm going to definitely do that.
Yeah, so like Kelly said in that chat response, DNN Corp live streamed them from the Facebook page. They're still there. There's still links there. It was Dennis Shao, and sometimes with the assistance of Will Stroll. And it's kind of authentic, right? It's just a guy holding a cell phone and sitting near the speaker.
Okay, right, thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. So who was the other voice that was about to speak?
Yeah, this is Matt Rutledge here. How's it going, guys? I just want to say, I just want to echo the sentiments on what we heard about Andy's keynote. It was very empowering, and I just also want to say that if you guys are in the community and just waiting for things to happen, start getting involved in the forums, do some commits, get on some JIRA issues, start really contributing, because that's how this is going to grow, and that's Andy's whole vision.
Yep. Now, Matt, are you riding a Kawasaki motorcycle at this moment, by chance?
I'm driving in my car to get my kids, and there was this Honda in front of me that was just blasting through the snow.
Yeah, good stuff. And I was just giving you a hard time, but yeah, so very much so, and Matt, you're one of the community members who's kind of, taking the bull by the horn, so to speak. I mean, doing a lot of work on these templates and things like that, and that's a lot of work that it takes a lot of time, and then eventually, you'll make an announcement with a blog, and people get excited, and so that kind of stuff is what I view as very encouraging. Like when I look around the ecosystem, just like you guys look around the ecosystem, and you see people, activating and re-engaging and doing stuff. Like, for example, Mitch Labrador just showing up to our technology group meeting. I mean, that was awesome. So for one, I am encouraged to see that kind of stuff, and really looking forward to your template work, and I think everybody else will be as well. And David's going to your GitHub page here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so Matt's been spending some time on developing a more modern type environment using Yeoman to generate and scaffold out DNN modules and themes. So great work there so far, and looking forward to seeing this kind of get to a point of V1.
Yep, I think that may be webinar worthy at some point, right? I mean, if we get this thing ironed out. I know a guy who schedules webinars.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, no, it's good. And David is on the Facebook page there with the keynote videos. I'm getting a little echo there. All right, so we talked about, there's Dennis Shaw, speaking of webinars. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend. He has arrived. Welcome, Dennis. Dennis, do you have any perspective of the, man, that echo's killing me. Do you have any perspective of the conference that you'd like to share?
I don't know. Hopefully I wasn't causing the echo.
Yeah, it was yours. That's why I muted you. Sorry about that, Dennis.
Let me go get headphones. Hold on a second.
Pete, can't you let Dennis borrow one of your earbuds, like somehow through the ether of Apple or whatever?
Yes, the remote CB buds there that have the 500-mile range.
Oh, gotcha. Radio Breaker 19. So we'll let Dennis get hooked up here.
All right, I'm back. Hopefully the echo is gone.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think it's gone. Can you hear us? I think his internet may be freezing up.
I turned my video off. I think I'm in a... Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So conference overall I thought was great. I know we're talking about the keynote. I thought the keynote was very good. I know for some people who have been very active in the community and were listening when the acquisition was first announced last August, I know some people told me they wanted to hear a little bit more detail and specifics, but at the same time, when Cassidy asked the audience at the end to raise their hand if this was the first time they've been to a DNN event, and I think 40% of the people raised their hand, then I think that was a good sign that we had so many new newbies or first-timers to the event. And given that, I think it was good for them to hear a little bit of that retelling of the story from Andy on the opening keynote, because they might not have known about the acquisition and the whole background of ESW Capital.
Right.
So I think it was useful for them to hear.
Yeah, no, that's
that whole perspective.
That is a good point. Look at Mitchell. Yeah, so this is, just some video David skimming through. Oh, look, there's the little one.
That was awesome.
A nice little shout out there. Much appreciated. But yeah, so that was kind of the feel. So I think we got everybody's kind of feedback there on Andy's keynote. So what about if we transition? We'll go to the open panel next, because in kind of the timeline of events, it was next. What did you guys think about the open panel? Let's start with Mark. Is Mark still here? Okay, I see him listed. I don't see his camera anymore. Oh.
There, now you can hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know that I have any unique impressions from the open panel. I'm trying to actually remember what was discussed there. How about I chime in after someone else talks a little bit?
Well, I think there were a lot of questions on liquid content, that's for sure.
I have some comments about liquid content, but I'm trying to remember what was discussed.
They were trying to figure out when it was going to actually be in platform. Like Tracy Wittenkeller was asking, and I think Andy deferred to Ash for roadmap and trying to get clarity.
I made a note during that conversation. The date was pressed several times, and the note that I made was no date mentioned. So although everyone wanted to know, I don't think we really got a solid date on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they answered third quarter, and a lot of times with software, they can't give a specific date, and it's not because they don't want to, and it's not for lack of trying, but adding something like that to the platform may bring up other issues, as well as defining what's going to be the selling point for Evoke once they take liquid content and put it down in platform. So, I mean, I feel like quarter three, is there an echo? Is that me?
I don't hear an echo.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like quarter three is, I mean, I feel like they answered that, and the question kept getting pressed for a specific date, and I mean, I feel like with software, a specific date isn't always possible, especially this far out. I mean, we're still 2 quarters away from quarter three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of that may have been driving that. A lot of people thought that it was going to be sooner, because the blog came out a while ago. So I think maybe people put the two together and just assumed maybe that it was coming in 9.2, and we still don't really know exactly when that will come, but that's probably what was driving a lot of that, just expectations that people had developed themselves.
Well, I mean, not too long ago, Dennis actually did a webinar on liquid content or structured content, and did mention it was coming down to platform, but again, no specific date, and I think sometimes that's okay.
Yeah, I would agree. It's okay that we don't exactly know when it is, and I agree that they might not exactly know when it's going to be either, because things have to be done.
Right.
I think some of us are anxious to get our hands on it.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's really great.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my headphones working here, so hopefully I can get rid of echo. But I don't see the microphone.
So just to recap a couple additional things that Andy and Ash said with regard to liquid content. Andy did say they want Ash and team to publish the details, like a spec, on how we are moving it into platform, and that there's no specific date, but they said that'll be out this quarter, Q1, and that's going to go out to the community for comment. So we want to make sure there's transparency and feedback, and that once that spec has gotten vetted and gotten feedback, then the engineering team will build off of the spec, and that's where you got the Q3 date. I understand where people are coming from, where they are eager to know more specifics, and I think once, I don't want to speak for Ash and team, but I think as soon as we can get some clarity on the dates, it'll be shared with the community.
Did we lose you, Clint? Yeah, I think we may have lost Clint there. He looks frozen. So, anybody else have anything there on the open Q&A?
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Now we can.
You're back. Welcome back.
Yeah. Well, so my question was, Dennis, you were the MC of the open panel, right?
Yes, I was.
So were there any questions that you thought were better or like good or that, spawned good dialogue?
Yeah, I think, it was, I guess, the elephant in the room, which was the whole concept of moving to ASP.NET Core. That was like the closing 10 minutes. And I think it's a very challenging, there's no easy answer to that. And there were some polls done to the audience on, would you be in favor of a clean break? So you're going to have to migrate your site, like breaking changes. Some people said I would be in favor because of the attractiveness of where we're heading. Some people spoke up and said, if I need to, all my modules break, I'm out. So I don't, and we're going to have to figure out, if we go down the path, we have to figure out which one. I don't think there's an easy answer. But I think that took up the last 15 minutes. It was this conversation that we need to have, and it needs to continue. But my head was almost spinning a little bit, just trying to gauge all the trade-offs.
Yeah. No, and like I said, it is kind of a difficult conversation because you have to make choices, right? And with each choice comes different consequences, some good, some bad, and everybody would be affected in one way or another by the choice.
Right.
So
I have to say that part of the conversation, that part of the panel discussion was a bit scary to me in regards that, I have quite a few websites, and the thought of redoing all of them close to at the same time in order to make something work again or keep something alive is pretty daunting. So, yeah, just trying to get my head around what that's going to be like, and I know that there's not an answer already, but some of that was news to me and a little bit on the scary side.
Yeah, so that's a good point. But Mark, I guess I'm interested in what your feedback would be. Let's say that the technology group said, okay, we're going to march forward and build this new awesome solution which will be, future-proof, until the next iteration of whatever Microsoft technology. And then if they then said, and yeah, we're gonna have a just a phase of 2 or 3 years where we're going to be building out this solution and we're going to still support DNN, right? So like if you had a window of time, and I mean like a long window of time, where you could migrate your clients to a new solution, would that, make it not as scary for you?
Definitely not as scary. That's true. However, part of the issue for me, and maybe more so than others, is my clients don't always want to make that move. They, when they like their site the way it is, and that's what they're expecting, and that's what they want to continue having for the indefinite future. So I can't always control when we move forward on each site. Yeah. That being said, they can stay where they are for a while, and we can just move when they're ready to have a new theme and a new look and get some updating going on. So I think it's all manageable. It's, you know, I was just apprehensive about the amount of work all at one time.
Yeah.
If it's spread out over a long period of time, I think that's manageable.
Yeah.
I'm interested in moving forward.
Right. Yeah, and I think that would be kind of like one of the only logical, you know, ways to do it, right? I mean, if you look at any software, it's never like, oh, we're flipping a switch and, you know, it's done. There's always a transition period, and so I mean, and I'm not, you know, trying to talk ahead of myself. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm just doing a hypothetical here. But you know, if there were a .NET Core solution, obviously it's more than just you, right, Mark? I mean, it's a huge ecosystem that we have to kind of bring along. We could say big as the Titanic, right? That we have to turn. So I mean, that's a valid concern. Anybody on the phone got any comments? Matt, Cheryl?
I'd be okay with moving forward. I mean, most, you know, other .NET solutions that we're using are probably moving towards core if they're not already there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, with Microsoft, you know, in web forms, they're you know, promoting .NET Core. That's the new shiny object. That's the future, right? So it's kind of like an inevitability at some point in time.
I learn new software constantly, so.
Yep. No, I'm still learning DNN.
Yeah, right, and old software too.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, and Dennis, you're right. That was kind of the elephant in the room, and it was the subject that people were most passionate about. At least that's what it seemed like, you know, with me watching it here on Facebook Live, you know, stream. Because I think like Mark Saunders, he had, you know, he was pretty opinionated. Jeff Hardy made some good points. Thompson Knox was piping up on behalf of his clients, which is a very valid concern as well. And then, you know, from just one side of the room to the next, everybody was voicing seemingly what I could tell from afar, valid, you know, concerns and just, you know, things to think about. So, David, you got any perspective you want to add?
Yes, I didn't get to ask my question in the open Q&A, but it is pretty short and clear. What is an MVP?
An NV quick what or an MVP? You know, you should watch the playback from today's MVP meeting.
There you go.
Minimum viable product.
Yeah. But David, do you have any thoughts on the .NET Core transition?
No, you know, it is definitely common practice, right? In industry, whenever there's a need for a breaking change, to set a period at which the old is being supported, and then you start working on the new. And when the new comes out, it's nice and new. Some people can go. There may be a migration path fully. There may be a soft migration path. There may not be a migration path. It's just manual, you know. But it happens all the time in software, and you know, it's more about the communication and following through.
Yeah, a lot about.
So I'm definitely excited about it, and I do think that's what's pressing on. You know, we're kind of at a pivotal point in the community where web forms is not going away tomorrow. It's not going away next year. But is it the shiny new object? Is it the modern way of doing things? No. So I think everybody knows we have to move forward, and you know, it's just a matter of how and when.
Gotcha. So Pete is asking Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say something about the interaction of third-party modules and providers when going forward, and I had the opportunity to ask the same question to both Mandeep, who was there, and Bogdan, both third-party providers, and they both stated they will be ready with modules rewritten and ready to go for the new platform if and when that comes about. That actually was very encouraging to me. I make heavy use of modules, and their modules also in particular. But knowing that they'll be ready when we go to the new platform will make a big difference in how ready I will be able to be.
Yeah, you know, Mandeep, he asked a question during that open panel, which kind of spoke to that very point that you're making, Mark. I mean, he was like, let's do it. He's like, any vendor who's engaged with the community, they'll be able to roll with it, and the ones who aren't, you know, they'll be kind of old baggage. And it was like he was almost looking forward to it because it would help him and his company like prove that they are, you know, in the DNN ecosystem, you know, for the long haul, and that they are able to navigate, you know, changes as they occur. So when he asked that question, I was like, now there's a guy who has a game plan. You know, he has his ducks in a row. He knows what's going to happen, and he's ready to you know, make the change. And I think a lot of those guys are already making their modules more, you know, kind of modern in nature, like using Web API. You know, front end kind of code heavy, so that when you change out the engine, it won't be as devastating for them. And Kelly, you may, with the new, I don't know, Razor card or whatever you call it. Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't there. I don't know as much about it. But it's the new Smith card. I just can't remember the name, right? But is that totally wrong? I'm sorry. But anyway, the point being, your company is getting modernized with the modules, right? They're anticipating this, right? And so that was the point. So I apologize if I messed up.
Oh, no, I'm just giving you a hard time. So Razor Cart is definitely Smith Cart 2.0. I'll tell you guys all about it next month. But, yeah, as a module vendor, it's important for us to stay up to date, and that's kind of one of the reasons that we left Smith Cart behind. Technology cannot stay stagnant. We as a community cannot stay stagnant, and we also can't be resistant to change. So if something is going to change, we need to be prepared for it, and we need to embrace the change. And that's kind of what we've been doing with our modules. So our module is fully extensible using Razor templates, Angular. It has, you know, a full set of API calls. And I think those are things that we're lacking in our old model. So we have been in the e-commerce space since 2005, 2006, and it wouldn't have made sense for us to keep moving forward with what we have now. So if there is a huge change over to .NET Core, I mean, it's going to be the same thing. If we need to change something, we're going to change it. I mean, why would we be the long pole in the tent? You know, it just doesn't make sense from a business standpoint even, let alone a community standpoint. You know, it's like I said, I think it's important to embrace that change and to move forward because that's what technology does, and we're in the technology space. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that, you know, when you hear that perspective from a module vendor, it does kind of give you confidence about moving forward, right? And like I say, the cream will rise to the top. So, you know, any change is going to go that way. You know, you have the early adopters and then the, you know, mass, and then the late adopters, and it'll happen over a period of time. So, yeah, it's interesting to hear a lot of the perspectives, but you get a lot of encouraging perspectives as well. But you know, you hear from people who are kind of hesitant too, right? And I think again, they're all valid concerns. So, any other comments on the open Q&A that maybe I did not address? Anybody want to pipe up with anything? I heard somebody unmute. All right, well, so let's go to the next keynote, which would be Sean Walker's keynote. Sean opened up with the picture of the Titanic, and you can hear audible gasp or laugh or something in the room. I couldn't tell from afar. So, David, let's start off with that.
So that was pretty epic, right? I mean, how often do you see a keynote start out with the slide and no words, and the entire room just busts out? You know, I mean, it was so appropriate because, I mean, you know, there's connotations with that, but it's like, you know, we are kind of like the Titanic, you know, that it could sink, you know, if we stay where we are. So it was really a great motivator to see that image come up, and then him jump right into kind of how communities, open source communities work, and how some can evolve and some don't, and what it takes to do that. So I thought it was very encouraging, and it also was empowering to the community in another way, a little different from the way Andy did it, but it was interesting how I don't know, it was motivating to me. It was very encouraging.
Gotcha. Yeah, and if you put yourself in Sean's shoes, it is kind of an interesting situation or scenario to be in, right? So DNN is obviously his baby, but he doesn't work at DNN, but he's involved with the technology group, leading that group. So it's kind of like, he's got to motivate the community and, deliver a message, right, as the original creator, but yet not affiliated with the company. So, I don't know what the right word to say is, but it was a good message to deliver. I was really interested to hear his opinion. Like, what is he going to say, So I thought it was good. Mark, what did you think about Sean's comment?
I'm an integrator, not a developer. And so when I heard his description about how everyone really needed to step up and contribute, my thoughts were going to, okay, how can I do that if I'm not writing code? And so, he had some examples for that, and that was encouraging, and I think I have some thoughts on that as well. So my impression was, okay, time to step up. How do I do that? I get plugged in and do that.
Right. Yeah. So your takeaway from his keynote was like, I need to activate, right? And
I think, I would interpret it to say that we all need to activate if we're not already there.
Yep. I agree. Kelly?
Yeah, I felt the same way. So knowing that Sean Walker doesn't work for DNN Corp anymore, right? He's at Arrow. It's still his baby, and he's still so passionate about it, too. So to see somebody who, after all these years, is still passionate about something, kind of trying to rally everybody back around it, it definitely was motivating.
Yep. Awesome. What about Matt on the phone, who's riding the Kawasaki?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was definitely motivating. I like some of his descriptions. When he started into his whole thing about, I'm going to give you an economics lesson, I thought, we're going to lose the room. But, he pulled it off really well. And as someone newer in the community, I like what he said about the free riders and caretakers, and we just need to get more caretakers.
Yeah. Yep. No, it was definitely interesting. Like I said, it was strategic in the sense that, obviously Sean could write code with the best of them, but it wasn't about code, right? It was about, the ecosystem. It was about, people activating, and, it was kind of like he used examples throughout the speech, right? So I thought it was pretty good. Let's see, who haven't I pinged here? Cheryl, you have not heard it yet, so you will listen to it later. Dennis is on. Dennis, is Dennis on? Or no, did he drop off?
No, he had to drop off. He probably had another meetup to go to.
Oh, yeah. He's probably presenting on how to write a blog.
That's right.
We're not cool enough for Dennis.
Well, he did show. That's more than we can say for Will Strong right now.
Oh, snap.
I would add a bit about what Sean said, including about giving some more recognition for the folks that have been stepping up and those that do in the future, and even identify groups of people that are, of course, the developers first, but there were many other groups of people: marketing folks, designer folks, people who are answering the blog or writing blogs and answering forum questions. And he was making, I think, a conscious point to include everyone that it takes to make the community work.
Yep. Yep. And that is a good point. And I mean, you know, you could build awesome stuff, but you need people to evangelize it, right? And then once you evangelize and get people using it, then you need people who can support it, right? So it does take an ecosystem.
It takes a village.
Takes a village. I was about to use that word, but I didn't. But you are right. You are right. I told Dennis today. He and I had a call with somebody, and he messaged me after the call and telling me that his wife said that she heard the word ecosystem a lot. And I said, yeah, you need to tell her that the ecosystem that the ecosystem requires water and that you're the gardener. So Dennis helps me out a lot with the ecosystem stuff. So, all right. So that was Sean's keynote, and I guess the bullet point on the agenda of Future of DNN. That was kind of the ending of that open panel, right, David? I mean, do we have any more points that we want to cover on that?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm looking forward to seeing what Andrew's going to present to us, because it seems like an interesting proposition, and you know, to try to help with a soft migration path. But I'm looking forward to seeing some action, you know, in the tech advisory group, and you know, see if we can really come up with an approach to all this. It's not easy figuring this out, and some hard decisions I think are going to have to be made, and look forward to seeing some of those made.
Now, is it true that Andrew Heffling went in early from the bar one night so that he could code out this proof of concept?
Yeah, so we're sitting in a session by Nancy, and I'm trying to remember Nancy's last name. What was that?
Gaines.
That's right,
Yes.
Nancy Gaines. It was a great session, by the way, that she was giving, and I think this idea had been kind of, you know, swarming around in his head for a little while, but you know, we got to chatting in that session and not paying attention to Nancy as much as we probably should have, and you know, the idea kind of really resonated with him, you know, because he has a lot of .NET Core experience, and right back, I think it was in February or May or somewhere along that time frame. No, towards the end of last year, I guess. Anyways, where Microsoft announced Razor Pages as an option in .NET Core, that it just seemed like a really great path for web form builders, because you know, it's not the same thing, but it's the cost of going from web forms to a Razor page model, which is a similar model, by the way. It's a page, a CS/HTML page, and a code behind, and that's similar to the way the web forms pattern works as well. But it's actually more powerful in the sense that you can use an MVC pattern or an MVVM pattern and do that. But anyways, I'm rambling on. Yeah, he thought it would be a great idea, but he wasn't sure, you know, if it was even going to be possible in the framework. So yeah, he left, and that night, just before midnight, he had a proof of concept done. He had to rewrite the MVC pipeline to get it done that night, but it worked, and you know, he could render a page and wire up the model. So it was pretty impressive. Obviously, it wasn't done the right way, but it was enough to be done to prove the concept. So it was really nice.
If it would have been a hackathon, he would definitely have been the winner.
Oh, dude! If there's a hackathon going on, he's my partner.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's impressive, because I mean, he did that in one night, and then within a couple of days, he had a GitHub page up, all this information on there. Like that, to me, that's just impressive. So I respect obviously the ability to do that, but then the passion to do that, right? I mean, anybody that's going to pass up a night at the bar with all your DNN friends to go build out a proof of concept while at the conference, you got to respect that. All right, so the last bullet item here is next year's location. So in the intro, I think I kind of told too much, but we're having various locations. People saying, oh, we're going to do it here. We're going to submit a proposal. Pete's saying Costa Rica. Pete, why are you saying Costa Rica?
Right. It's not because there's anybody down there that could organize it.
I don't know about the venue. So yeah, some people said Bay Area. I think some people doing some research. So we shall see. We shall see. But if you guys could have it anywhere, where would you like to have it? Everybody's just saying warm. Is that what everybody's wanting? Some kind of warm weather?
Hey, I'd be okay with Charlotte again.
Charlotte, Austin, yeah.
So there was the idea floated of having it on a cruise, as in like a DNN cruise, you know?
That's right. That's right. I could go for that. That would be awesome. Sign me up.
Well, I mean, so I've been on a cruise before. I just don't know, like, what would be the biggest room? Like, if somebody was going to give a keynote and you needed to pack a room with, I don't know, 200 people or less, more, whatever.
That's easy, man. They all have the stages, you know, and the big amphitheater kind of thing. So that's where it goes.
I hear you. Well, I think the team at Gravity Works was kind of passionate about the cruise idea at one point. Can you have internet on a cruise? Yes, it just costs $1,000 per hour.
I think the team at Gravity Works is passionate about pretty much everything.
Yeah, Slide Rock Bolters. Should we give a shout out to the DNN Troubadour, by the way, since we're covering DNN Summit? I mean,
well, I heard if you didn't, then there might be, you know, that it wasn't worth having to meet up if we didn't do a little shout out or something.
That is a fact. I heard that as well. So, you know, Lockheed, Ron Miles, DNN Troubadour extraordinaire. He is very witty, funny, musically talented, and good. He's like a lyrical arsonist, right? He's lighting words on fire, like during his lunch break. So 3 years ago, he did the Ignite session where he sang for half of the Ignite with his I Crush Everything song. Last year, he came off the blocks, out of the blocks fast with the He's a DNN Yeti, which is awesome, and I know every word of it. And then this year he came out with When the Avalanche Comes, and has since created a new Twitter personality. So if you're not following DNN Troubadour, you should. You can see the When the Avalanche Comes. And he's got a little logo there too. Awesome. So anyways, yeah, if you hadn't checked out his music videos, you should. They are pretty good. And then he closes down conferences, you know, singing a song. So it's pretty epic.
Kudos to the Troubadour.
That is right. All right. Well, so if we don't have any other suggestions for meeting or DNN Summit locations, I guess we can wrap this one up. We appreciate everybody joining, and feel free to drop comments in the YouTube comment section if you're watching on a replay. If anybody else got any comments before we shut it down?
I'm looking forward to next month.
Yeah, no, we are too. Yeah, we are too. I want to see the new system, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about it correctly.
I can't believe you haven't seen it yet, to be honest with you. But that was one of the highlights of Summit, was getting to meet some of the